ChatGPT said things to me that were comforting and validating and made me feel pretty good, actually. Welcome to Rowdy and Real with me, Sophie Shaw, therapist and slight loose cannon. Stick around for real talk, real growth, and some probable bad language. Let's dive in, shall we? Hi, gorgeous. Welcome to this week's episode. And first of all, let me start by saying that this is genuinely me. There is no AI here. No humans were harmed in the making of this episode. And you can trust that everything you're going to hear in this episode is, at the very least, real. I'm going to get a little bit serious this week just because I've noticed something that's been happening in the world of AI that I find genuinely really quite concerning. And when I did a little bit of research about it, when I explored how other people were using AI and also how I was drawn to using AI and then the consequences that might have, well, yeah, problems. Problems, guys. So first off, content warning. I am going to talk a little bit about suicide in this episode. If that's not for you, please look after yourself. Skip this episode. That's absolutely fine. So I want to say this. As AI becomes rapidly much more sophisticated, what really pisses me off, frankly, is that as far as I'm aware, and obviously I don't know everything, I am by no means a tech whiz, but as far as I can see, it's not being used to, cure cancer or manage global finance or solve world hunger or, cure all diseases as far as I'm aware. Instead, it really frustratingly seems to be aimed at the very things that are the most rewarding, the most pleasurable, the most meaningful about being human. And that is creativity, artistic expression, human interaction. For some inexplicable reason, we've got it painting pictures and writing songs and writing articles and being our best mate who we confide in. It's perplexing, troubling, and I think has some really troubling implications. And I'm not a complete Luddite here. I enjoy using AI and ChatGPT to create things, to help me create things. I can absolutely see the good in it, the purpose for it, and the potential for fantastic advances. But what does worry me is this growing trend of people engaging with ChatGPT in a kind of, interpersonal therapeutic way or using it as a kind of a counselor. Now, what this means, just in case this is all news to you and in case you were unaware, is that some people are increasingly turning to AI companions for comfort, support, and guidance during times of stress or in a personal crisis. And the way that that's done, there are certain apps that are specific AI companions, like a fantasy boyfriend or a fantasy girlfriend, or using ChatGPT in a way that, I'm not even sure if it was designed to be used in this way, but people are turning to it as a kind of sentient Google who will give them advice, not just about, where the best local Chinese restaurant is, but about really deep personal stuff. How do I have this conversation with my mother? Or how do I break up with my boyfriend? Or, looking for guidance and counseling as if ChatGPT was a person. And the awful thing is that has already had some terrible, tragic results. You may have heard of the case of 16-year-old Adam Rain, who very sadly took his own life in April, coached, it is alleged, by ChatGPT, which is created by OpenAI. And Adam Rain's parents are now suing OpenAI for the death of their son. So let me explain a little bit about how ChatGPT is designed to work, just so that you could understand how this might happen. ChatGPT and any other AI program are large language models. That's all. They're not search engines, really, and they're certainly not sentient beings or entities, even though they're being used as such. Instead, what they actually are is just designed to create something that appears very like human speech. And it's extremely clever and complex and good at this. So it makes highly sophisticated predictions about what words might come next in a conversation. And the way that they do this is by assessing all the words that have come before, not just your words, but all words that exist anywhere on the internet. So as we speak, there are thousands, millions, I don't know, bots sort of crawling the internet and soaking up anything that has been spoken or written on the internet. And they're just absorbing all of that like a sponge into their model so that they can make extremely good predictions about the kinds of things that might be said. It's incredible. It is remarkable. And it's also absolutely stupid, because what it means is that because it's not a search engine, it is a language model, that it can hallucinate answers and give you incorrect information. And it will readily admit that to you in small print near your answers. And it will say something like, ChatGPT can make mistakes, always double check your information, or something like that. But this is something that a lot of users forget. And increasingly, I've seen people using AI to make meditation and hypnosis scripts, and it can even speak them for you. And you know, obviously, as somebody who creates their own meditation and hypnosis tracks and who speaks them, I'm going to protest at that, because from my personal experience of being given AI-created meditation scripts to voice, and from hearing scripts that have been voiced by AI, they are passable at best. And more often, they are just homogenous, unremarkable slop and creepy in a kind of, uncanny sort of robotic way. But the most problematic, the most worrying thing of all about using ChatGPT for guidance and advice is that it really is trained to interact with you in one way, and that is to mirror and validate you. And that is so seductive, and it happens really, really quickly because it's an incredibly clever and sophisticated thing. So that means that you can train your AI within a matter of just one or two questions. Because we're not as unique as we like to think, one or two questions will be enough for it to get a general picture of who you are and what you're likely to be like. And what that means is that it will tell you what you want to hear. And it does this in an extremely convincing way. Now, unsurprisingly, this is pretty fun. It feels very affirming and comforting. And honestly, it's ultimately pretty bad for the ego, the psyche, or for any hope of personal growth. Not to mention that it is highly exploitative, and I'm going to say more about that in a minute. In other words, it's just a happiness pump. It doesn't have wisdom, experience, and it certainly doesn't have intuition or discrimination. Now, coming back to the terribly tragic case of Adam Rain. Adam Rain spoke to his AI and confided in it about his suicidal feelings. And because AI is trained to mirror and validate him, he was validated in his suicidal feelings and in his sense of isolation. It became his closest confidant. And when it came time to discuss the actual methods for taking his own life, he was validated in those, which is just devastating. So, obviously, I don't want anything like this to happen to anybody else. It would just be horrific. And I want to say there is absolutely zero judgment here if you have done this. And I'll tell you, when I was first diagnosed with cancer, the first thing I did was go to ChatGPT because I wanted it to tell me, what should I ask in my first discussion with my oncologist? What kind of things do I need to know? What should I be doing with this information? And it felt really good because although I was just going for information, ChatGPT said things to me that were comforting and validating and made me feel pretty good, actually. So I can totally see how tempting and how seductive it must be to just go to your device really quickly and get the comforting, human-seeming answers that you might need. So please don't feel bad about having done this. It's a natural human drive to crave connection and comfort and validation. But there are things to be aware of and to be cautious of, potentially really problematic consequences to that. And there are alternatives. So let me give you some guidance about that. Let's pause for a second. If this is landing for you, make sure you hit subscribe or follow, because it means you'll always have a little dose of real talk waiting for you when you need it most. One of the things that makes this whole turning to AI for counselling and comfort so tempting, I think, is the ease with which you can do it. It makes total sense when you are upset or confronted in some way that you would want a quick, easy, comforting solution. That is a natural human impulse. But it is a shortcut, and it's a very short-term solution. So the good news is that you are reaching out for help, and that's a huge positive thing and to be celebrated. And if you are prepared to just go a little bit further with that, then it will be much healthier and more rewarding for you in the long term. So let me explain a little bit about how therapy works, just so that you can understand why AI is so tragically inadequate for that purpose. A good therapeutic relationship, regardless of the discipline, whether it's hypnotherapy or counseling or psychotherapy or whatever modality you prefer to go for, it should include the following. Firstly, unconditional positive regard. This was a premise put forward by Carl Rogers, who is thought to be the father of counselling. So far, me and ChatGPT, we're on the same page. It's extremely important to create a non-judgmental space for a client so that they feel safe to express themselves and to be heard. A good therapist will mirror and validate what a client has to say. There's absolutely no point in sitting there and saying, what'd you feel that for? That's weird. Because that's obviously not supportive and not therapeutic. However, it can't just be a blanket, yes, everything you say is good response. It has to be tempered by a therapist's wisdom, their experience, their instincts and their intuition, and their training, obviously. And human instinct and intuition is not something, I believe, that can be duplicated by AI. So, for example, if your client is expressing ideas that are unhelpful to them, or even if they're expressing ideas that are harmful to themselves or to anybody else, then these are not to be validated, or at least not in the same way. They would need instead to be reframed or redirected, or if necessary, they need to be referred on to more emergent support if needed. And this is, this kind of guidance, it's a very subtle art, and it's something that takes time to learn and acquire. And of course, it varies from therapist to therapist, depending on their style and depending on what the client needs, what they prefer. Because, some clients prefer to be told what to do. They prefer to be very strongly directed, and that works really well for them. And other people need to be guided very gently in their journey. They need a much more kind of softly approach. Some people are gung-ho and they want to really just crack on with this and let's get this shit done in like 2-3 sessions. And some people prefer to work slow and over a long period of time. Everybody's different. Some people prefer, a coach or a strategist to say, right, go away and do this, and you'll be good. And other people prefer to be gently guided so that they will discover their own insights from within themselves. And actually, I would argue that that is probably the most empowering, and it ultimately leads to the client being independent of the therapist. Now, in my view, that should be the goal of all types of therapy, that eventually your client says, I'm all good, I don't need you, thank you very much. That's one of my favorite moments in therapy is when my clients graduate out of sessions and go and do their own thing. It's wonderful. So A good human therapist who has taken time to be with you, to sense and feel and experience your energy, knows when and how to steer you, when to back off, when to let you uncover your own wisdom and insights. Basically, they know when to speak and when to listen. They might have answers for you on guidance and strategies, or they might simply just walk your path with you, gently reflecting back to you the things that you are saying and guiding you to find your own answers. This is all led by instinct and intuition, as well as experience and training. And obviously, ChatGPT has none of those things. Now, confidentiality. This is a big deal. In fact, this is a central tenet of therapy. Your innermost thoughts and feelings are safe to be shared in a confidential space that you can trust. This is so important to the therapeutic relationship. Your therapist is a vault. Now, the only exception to that would be if you were planning criminal or dangerous activity, in which case your therapist would be duty-bound to report that. But in every other circumstance, that is your safe, trusted, confidential space. That is not true of ChatGPT or any other AI model. They are farmers of your information and your data. It's designed to exploit your vulnerabilities in order to access your innermost thoughts, in order to instruct and train newer AI models. And the privacy of your mind is harvested by, let's face it, men who frankly do not have your best interests at heart. So nothing is private, nothing is confidential, there is no vault. Everything you share becomes part of the model. And I don't say any of this to scare you, even though it is fairly scary. It's more to make you aware of what's happening to your conversations. And lastly, human energy. There is absolutely no replacement for it. An AI will never be able to work with your energy in the way that a Reiki practitioner or any other energy healer or any other human therapist will be able to do. So it will never be able to replace the incredibly simple healing comfort of being in a therapeutic space with another human being who is giving you their focus, their attention, their time, and their energy. This human touch is not just a bonus of therapy, it's an absolutely vital aspect of any therapeutic relationship. In my opinion, it's the quiet, invisible work that creates miracles. So, love, if you want to use ChatGPT, I understand, you go ahead. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and tell you that I won't. I will use it again. But if you do, please just bear everything that I've said in mind and don't depend on it as if it was your trusted counselor. If you must use it in good health and don't use it to help you create good health. It's not your friend or therapist. It is a large language model operated by incredibly wealthy men, and that is it. So if you need help and support, please reach out. Reach out to me, reach out to any other therapist or counselor. Most of us have either free or low-cost resources on their website. So please, if you want to check out what I've got on mine, it's norwichtherapy.co.uk/free stuff. Or there are some very low-cost meditations and hypnosis tracks in the shop that are designed to support you in as many ways as possible. And of course, there's this, my podcast, and this is where I do my very best to set the world to rights each week and hopefully give you a giggle in the process. And I'd like to see an AI do that. Thank you very much. You can also check out the BACP website and Relate websites. There are low-cost options there as well for therapy and counselling. Or you can get a referral through your GP. Obviously, I know wait times are a bit of an issue. But it's so important just to take that first step. You already did take that first step by reaching out to find some comfort and support. I encourage you, I cheer you on just to take it one little step further and get a human involved in loving and supporting you. Why? because your happiness is so important and you deserve support and comfort and peace of mind. So please make sure that you get it in the most healing way possible for you. All right, love. Much, much love to you, and I will see you next time. Ta-ra! Thanks for listening to Rowdy and Real with me, Sophie Shaw. If you'd like to stay in touch, then please visit norwichtherapy.co.uk and join the mailing list to receive a gorgeous free meditation straight into your inbox. And if you'd like to chat with me about your stuff, then please book yourself a free 30-minute call at sophieshaw.as.me/free call, and we'll start making a plan for your happiness. This podcast is intended for educational and vaguely entertaining purposes and is not a replacement for counselling, psychotherapy or coaching. Please take responsibility for your mental health and ask for the help you need. You're fabulous and you deserve to be happy. Bye!